Hi, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Anita Pastor, QHHT practitioner, specializing in past life regression hypnosis. Today, I wanted to bring you some interesting parallels that I see with different clients, and it just kind of makes you wonder about the stories and the movies that you've seen as children and how they got these ideas. And as a practitioner, when I'm working with clients, I am amazed at the parallels I see in some of my sessions and looking at those things like in movies. So kind of the last month and a half, I've had this very interesting concept with ETs, and I love the ET stories. I just find them so fascinating. I love science fiction, Star Trek. I rewatched all the original Star Treks recently on Netflix and the Star Wars films. And the scene that everybody talks about in Star Wars is when they're at the cantina. And I think it's Luke Skywalker goes into the cantina, and it's filled with all these different ETs and all these different races. And, it's the local bar, and it's crazy. And there's little ones, fat ones, big ones, different colors. And it's really the highlight of the film as a kid. And I remember that scene really, really well. And it always resonates, that scene. And, this interesting arrangement of all these different ETs, 30 years ago, that was just unheard of. But what's been happening in the last couple of months with some of my clients, they've been going into some of their ET lives, ET experiences, and that scene is coming back, but in different ways. So I wanted to share it with you because I just found it really, really fascinating. Because sometimes I say to myself, the people that write these scripts and write these trilogies and these films, are they getting channeled? Like, how do they know this information? And where did this information come from? Because what I sort of feel is that these two regressions that I'm going to share with you really kind of hit home with the Star Wars concept. So the first client I had was Pedro, and Pedro was going through a awakening experience as he was being contacted with ETs, and he'd had some experiences. So it was very difficult to figure out consciously what was truly going on, and why he was getting having these experiences. So we went into hypnosis. We went into trance. So basically, what happened was Pedro started in a little forest and sees a little wooden cottage and with a chimney, and the smoke is going out of the chimney. And what I've also found is that when people go in the forest and they find these little wood houses, it's usually going to be a really fabulous ride. So, so Pedro goes in and he talks to there's a little gnome in the cottage, and they're waiting for him, and they're telling him all this information. And what he sort of establishes through this is he starts to see and feel and understand that he's an insect. So what we do through guiding him through the session is we find out that he's a mantis and he can actually fly. So I guide Pedro to use his wings and fly, and he flies up into this beautiful night sky filled with stars, and he ends up meeting these little guys in a little spaceship. And he kind of explained them as grays, and very robotic like, very cyborg like, and basically said, hop on and we want to take you somewhere. So he was feeling comfortable and good. And basically, that little spaceship took him to this enormous spaceship. And it was like a space station. And basically, Pedro describes that, he's like literally holding on to this little ship. He's a mantis, remember, huge mantis, like a praying mantis. And they basically land on a dock. Well, that really reminds me of Star Wars. So he lands on this dock, and everybody is peaceful and welcoming. And basically, he starts going through the adventure of discovering what's on this spaceship. So, with over 45 minutes of exploring this station, he starts off with describes it as a square with merchants and bartering and shops, and things are, there's places to go to eat and there's things available. It's like a square. And he says that there are hundreds of and thousands of different beings there. He said there's so many beings, he cannot explain them all. Different colors, different sizes. Some speak different languages. Some speak English. Some are tall. Some are short. Different skin colors. He just goes on to explain again. It felt like we were in the cantina, only this time, we're like in a city. And that city is with so many multiple diverse races that are coming together. So then he moves out of the, let's call it the square, and he goes into a station and finds out there's like this other area. It's a rest station, and that's where beings go to rest and re-energize and get themselves back on board. Because what he finally figures out is that he's on a rest station in space somewhere. And so then he finds nourishment, and there's all these juices and foods, and he said everyone has different preferences and different likes, and there's something there for everybody. And so he takes a juice, some type of energy juice, he explained it as, and we keep exploring the rest station. So then he comes to another place, and that place describes it as like 3 stories high, 30, 40 feet high, filled with forest and trees and a lake and a pathway. And he said it feels like you're outside in the forest, but the difference is when you look up and you look to see a sky that's blue with clouds, you see space and it's filled with stars. And he said the air there is incredible, and there's places that you can sit and talk to people. And he says it's just a real form of regeneration. So then Pedro moves on, and remember, Pedro's a mantis. He's not human. So Pedro moves on, and he sees this sort of entrance to this place that seems to be really, really fun. And everybody's having fun, and they're waiting to go on this ride. And he explains it as like this chamber. And again, it's like 30, 40 feet high, and there's a crystal of energy in the middle, and you go in and with the energy of this crystal, you fly around it, and you have fun, and you go, it's like a carousel. And he said everybody is laughing and having fun. And he says it's like a regeneration. It's a healing center. So you go in there and you heal. So we're just mesmerized by all the things that he's experiencing. And then he comes out of there, and I asked him to explain, I said, we're trying to figure out what is yes, it's a rest center, but a rest center for what? Is it a particular rest center? So I asked Pedro to see if he sees anybody around and to ask them. And so he sees this big, large blue bear, and he describes it like Pixar, like there's animated creatures, there's all types of different creatures. So he asks the bear, like, what's going on, buddy? Like, what is this place? And the bear said, relax, have fun, enjoy yourself, take a rest. This is the place where you come before you go to the next mission. So then Pedro continues to explore. He goes down the wrong corridor, and he sees a parking lot. And the parking lot is filled with different spaceships. Just mesmerizing. So really, his regression was to enjoy life and have fun and take a rest. But just extraordinary. So it felt like going into Star Wars, only we went deeper. And that cantina was a part of in that particular instance, that cantina where we saw all those creatures in the film, it felt like it could have been that rest station. That could have been the concept. And what was fascinating was the gathering of all these multi-dimensional beings. So then we go on to our next client, Sam. And Sam has a really interesting regression. And I'm just giving you parts of the regressions. I'm not giving you all of the regression. But what I wanted to do was to show you how fascinating it is as a practitioner and how we see things in synchronizing with films and movies. So Sam basically starts off in a lovely florist and basically finds the love of their life. And Sam meets Julia, and Julia basically has been um, Sam's partner and lover and wife for many, 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 many lifetimes, and they have reunited. And Julia is very, very excited to see Sam again. And she has brought him to a moment that they shared as children, where they were playing in the forest and they would have fun together, playing tag and all types of things. And so once they reunite, Sam recognizes her, and Julia decides that she would like to take Sam back to their home. So Julia ends up being an Arcturian, and Julia takes them back to a planet. Could it be Arcturus? We don't know for sure, but it's definitely where Sam and Julia had many lifetimes together and were married or partnered together. And so very similar. Um, Julia starts out by showing Sam their home, and it's this beautiful home that's built in the mountains. And Sam is having difficulty trying to explain it because he says, like, you see the mountain, you don't really see the home, but when you come to this front door, you sort of walk into inside the mountain, and there's this beautiful, incredible space filled with light. And he just said it's absolutely amazing and really felt like home. He had come back home. So then once Julia acclimatizes Sam to their house and is sort of felt like helping Sam to remember their life, Julia takes them out to the city square or the city center, like the palazzo. And again, Sam describes the palazzo very much the way that Pedro did, in that this is a lovely, beautiful place filled with ETs from all over the place, different shapes, different sizes, different colors. Um, Sam also mentioned that the fashion was so exquisite. He said it was nothing like you've ever seen on planet Earth, and so intricate and detailed and thoughtful, and he said just so beautiful and intrinsic to every different species that he was seeing. And he said again, he was seeing animated characters as well as real characters, tall beings. He described Julia as being a very tall being, like 10 feet tall, but not being able to see her entire body. She was so high frequency that he only really got sort of her head and her face and shoulders, but the rest of her just sort of was like invisible, and she floated. And but she did announce herself as an Octurian. So also what was happening in that square was, again, there was lots of places to eat things, and there was all these bands and music and people getting together in the square, and they were dancing. And Sam said it was like a really magical place, really beautiful, filled with this wonderful energy and colors and lights and sounds. And it was just a wonderful place to be. I mean, I could have sort of imagined it was like being at a fair, you know, at night, being very romantic and filled with lights and all types of different things. And so Julia pulled Sam over to like a kiosk, a stand, and picked up a big, huge bug and handed it to Sam to eat. And Sam was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not going to eat this. I don't eat insects. Like, what is this? This is crazy. So Sam was like, I said, Sam, don't worry about it. Like, and Julia said, yes, you know what, Sam, what you don't remember is that this is one of your favorite things to eat at the square. And I'm trying to help you remember your home. And so Sam was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to eat this thing. So Sam ate it and fell in love. And again, got memories of this place that he had been in before with Julia. And so every interaction helped him remember that this originally was his home. And apparently, Julia and Sam had had many lifetimes together, many marriages and families together. So Sam goes through the square, and finally Julia leads him to a very special place, which is this beautiful beach. And it's filled with colors and tones and healings and frequencies. And he looks up and he sees this beautiful, incredible sky that really reminds him like there's this amazing universe. And he's seen a lot of this universe. And he remembers that this is his home. And again, I mean, an extraordinary experience. But once again, an experience that led us through these wonderful squares where we see all these ETs together, cohabitating together peacefully and joyfully, and people trading and commerce and merchants, and, you know, a really wonderful space that all really reminds me of Star Wars and that cantina. And watching that as a child, thinking, wow, like what an amazing place. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could go somewhere like that? And, you know, would it be true? As a practitioner, I'm starting to believe that these sessions are unraveling different dimensions and different worlds that have given me the great privilege to have a glimpse into. And I'm starting to feel that the writers of Star Wars basically had some information, had to have been channeled, or had some experience in their life that brought us to these incredible places. I don't think this was somebody's imagination. I think this was based on true experience. That's QHHT. It's an amazing experience. I urge you all to go through it. It's not just about ETs and going back to places. It's about many things. It's about helping you get unstuck, helping you with anxiety, depression, anything in your life. QHHT is a wonderful modality to dig deeper into your subconscious to help you find the information that you need to unblock and move forward in your life. If you'd like to book a session, you can just go on the link below. And if you have any questions or comments about this video, please leave your comments in the box below. Thanks very much. I'm Anita Pastor, and have a wonderful day.